Okay, so 2.3 covers solving systems using substitution or elimination, so the algebraic method. We've already done graphing, which y'all took a quiz over, and then now we're going to do algebraic, okay? So we're going to cover substitution first. You did learn this in Algebra 1, so this is not new, okay? Nothing from this lesson is new. So with substitution, the only time you can use substitution is if you have a variable with a coefficient of 1 or -1. So what does that look like? That looks like a variable with no number written in front, okay? That's the only time you're going to use substitution. So what you're going to be doing is that one particular variable that does not have a coefficient in front, that's what you're solving for, okay? And then you're going to take that expression that you get. Think about what the word substitute means. It means to replace, okay? So I'm going to replace the variable in the second equation with the expression you just solved, okay? So all of this means a whole bunch of nothing if we're not doing an example with it, okay? So I'm not going to read all of this. We are going to start with our examples. Okay, so if I have 2x plus 5y equals -5, and x plus 3y equals 3. The only variable I have that has a coefficient of 1 is my x. So I'm going to take that x plus 3y equals 3 and solve for x. So I'm going to subtract my 3y. X equals -3y plus 3. Okay, so this x equals means I'm going to replace x in the other equation with the entire -3y plus 3. So I'm going to plug that in for x. So I'm going to have 2 times -3y plus 3. And then copy down the plus 5y equals -5. Okay, so that's your substitution step. From here down is just basic algebra 1. I'm going to distribute the 2, so that's -6y. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 5y equals -5. I'm going to combine like terms. -6 plus 5 is a -y. Plus 6 equals -5. To solve for y, I'm going to subtract my 6. So -y equals -11. Divide by -1, and y equals +11. Okay? So then, once I get this one variable, I have half my answer. Okay? I have my y, I need my x. So I'm going to take this y value. You can either plug it into one of these originals, but I personally plug it into what I already solved for because I know I solved that correctly. I'm just going to plug it in there. Okay, so that leaves me with x equals -3 times 11 plus 3. So x is equal to -3 times 11 is -33, plus 3 is -30. So because I'm solving a system, I'm going to write my answer as an ordered pair. So my answer would be -30, 11. Okay? And before I box it, I'm going to use my calculator and I'm going to check my answers. When you do substitution and elimination, you know, like when you turn in your quiz, you will know if you got them right or not if you're checking. Because you're checking to make sure it is a solution. Okay, so remember, for it to be a solution, it has to be true for both. So I'm going to take -30 and store it for x. And then I'm going to take 11. And to store it for y, I hit the same button, but x I'm going to hit twice. So I'm going to hit this, and it changes to a y. Press enter. So now I'm going to type 2x plus 5y. It gives me -5, which is true. And then x plus 3y gives me 3, which is true. So I know -30, 11 is my solution. So you will know if you got all of these right or wrong, just by checking, okay? Do we have questions on how we do substitution for that example? Okay. Y'all remember this from Algebra 1? You should. Okay. So if I have another interruption. Okay, if I have x minus 3y equals negative 25 and 4x plus 5y equals 19, I'm going to solve for this x. I would add my 3y, so that gives me x equals 3y minus 25. So I replace the x in the other equation with the 3y minus 25. So I have 4 times 3y minus 25 plus 5y equals 19. And then I distribute 12y minus 100 plus 5y equals 19. Combine my like terms. 12 plus 5 gives me 17y minus 100 equals 19. Add your 100 and 17y equals 119. Divide by 17 and y equals 7. So I take that 7 and I plug it in. So x equals 3 times 7 minus 25. So 3 times 7 is 21, minus 25 is a negative 4. So then together it becomes negative 4, 7. And then we plug it in our calculator and check to make sure it's correct. So negative 4 store for x, 7 store for y. And you're going to type your x minus 3y, which is negative 25. And then 4x plus 5y, which is 19. So I know I got it right. It's a solution. Okay? When you are working out solving systems algebraically, please make sure your work is neat. Okay? When I do it, I go all the way down, then I come back up and come down again. I want your work organized and neat. I do not want to have to search your steps. Okay? And make sure you're highlighting or boxing with another color or something that notates that that's your answer, so I don't have to go searching. Okay? Alright. X plus 4y equals 2 and 2x minus y equals negative 14. What am I solving for? I personally would solve for the x, but you could solve for y. Okay? But this x, I don't have to divide by a negative, so I'm going to choose that. Okay? So when I move this 4y, I'm going to subtract it, and that becomes x equals negative 4y plus 2. So I take the negative 4y plus 2 and replace the other x with that. So I have 2 times negative 4y plus 2 minus y equals negative 14. So then distribute, and I get negative 8y plus 4 minus y equals negative 14. Combine my like terms. Negative 8 minus 1 is a negative 9y plus 4 equals negative 14. Subtract your 4. Negative 9y equals negative 18. Divide by negative 9 and y equals 2. Take that 2, plug it in. X equals negative 4 times 2 plus 2. So that makes x equal negative 6. So then I've got negative 6, 2. And then you would check it. I'm not going to take the time to check it right now. Okay? Alright, so now I've got negative x plus 5y equals 8 and 3x plus 7y equals negative 2. Now I have no other option. I'm going to have to solve for this negative x, but when I do that, I cannot forget to divide by the negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to subtract my 5y, and that leaves me with negative x equals negative 5y plus 8. Then divide by -1, and x equals positive 5y minus 8. So I take that 5y minus 8, plug it in for my x. So I have 3 times 5y minus 8 plus 7y equals -2. I'm going to go ahead and distribute, so I get 15y minus 24 plus 7y equals -2. So 15y plus 7y, 22y minus 24 equals -2. Add your 24, 22y equals 22. Divide by 22 and y equals 1. Take this 1, plug it in, and I get x equals 5 times 1 minus 8. So x equals -3. So I have -3, positive 1. And then you would check it. Okay, so make sure, even though I'm not checking it in these notes because I've already shown you twice how to do it, you need to be in the habit on your homework and anytime you're doing it independently to check every single problem. Okay? Now elimination. What's my goal for elimination? What does eliminate mean? To get rid of. Okay? I'm trying to get rid of one of my variables. I'm no longer replacing, I'm getting rid of. Okay, so the only way I can do that is if I have opposite coefficients. Okay, so think about if I had -2x plus 2x. What does that give me? 0. Because I've got a -2 plus a +2, which is 0. Same thing if I had a -5 plus 5. That would be 0 also. Those are my opposite coefficients. So all I'm trying to do is get the same number but opposite signs. Okay, that's my goal. So if you want to go back and read the steps, you can, but we're just going to do the steps. Okay? So if I'm looking, I have x plus y equals 7 and 2x minus y equals 5. I'm going to look at my x's. Okay, I have a 1 and a 2 as my coefficient. And then I'm going to look at my y's. I have a 1 and a -1 as my coefficients. And then I've got 7 and 5 for my constants. So do know that when you do elimination, it has to be in standard form. It has to be ax plus by equals c. So x and y have to be on the left. Okay. If I'm looking, can I go ahead and eliminate a variable? Yeah, you should be able to look at that and recognize I can get rid of my y. I have a positive and a negative. They're opposite coefficients. So I'm going to go ahead and combine my equations. X and 2x gives me 3x. My y's cancel, and 7 and 5 gives me 12. I eliminated my y. Now I divide by 3, and x is equal to 4. So I take this x equals 4, and I plug it into an original. Say I plug it into the first one. That's 4 plus y equals 7. So y is equal to 3. So my ordered pair would be 4, 3. And you would still check this. You would still plug in your x and your y. Make sure it's true for both. Okay? Now I have 3x minus 7y equals 10 and 6x minus 8y equals 8. I'm going to look at my coefficients of x, 3 and 6. And then my coefficients of y, 7 and 8. If my goal is to get the same number opposite signs, which one do you think is going to be easier to get rid of, x or y? The x, because 6 is a multiple of 3. So look at your numbers, and you're going to have to know those multiplication facts, okay? So if I want this to become a negative 6, what am I going to multiply it by? Negative 2. So I'm going to rewrite my system, and my top equation becomes negative 6x plus 14y equals negative 20. And then my second equation, I just copy down 6x minus 8y equals 8. And I combine. Negative 6 and 6 are going to cancel. 14 minus 8 is going to give me 6y. The negative 20 and 8 gives me negative 12. Divide by 6 and y equals negative 2. I'm going to take this negative 2 and I'm going to plug it into an original. Okay, so let's say I do the first one. I've got 3x minus 7 times negative 2 equals 10. So 3x, negative 7 and negative 2 gives me positive 14. So I'm going to subtract that 14. 3x equals negative 4. Divide by 3 and x equals negative 4/3. It's okay to get fractions. Okay, fractions are not going to go anywhere. So my ordered pair is negative 4/3, negative 2. Okay, even if you weren't sure if that was correct, how do you know you got it right? You check it. You shouldn't even need an answer key for this lesson. You should be in the habit of checking. Okay? Now, what if I have 5x equals negative 3y minus 2 and 2y equals negative 3x minus 1? I need to get it in standard form. Okay, so I'm going to add the 3y, and that becomes 5x plus 3y equals negative 2. And I'm going to add my 3x, and that becomes 3x plus 2y equals negative 1. Now I need to figure out which variable do I want to get rid of. Well, in this situation, 5 is not a multiple of 3, and 3 is not a multiple of 2, so it does not matter which variable you choose. I could choose x, you could choose y, and we could end up with the same answer as long as your math is correct. Okay? So when it comes down to it not being multiples, with even at all with elimination, you pick which variable and you work from there. Okay? So me personally, I'm going to work with 3 and 2. You don't have to, but I'm going to do that. So if I'm going to eliminate my y's, what do I want that number to become? 6. You're looking at your least common multiple. Okay, so if I want it to become 6 and negative 6, I can take that 3y and multiply it by what? Either 2 or negative 2. It does not matter. One of them needs to become negative though. So if I do this one by 2, then I'm going to multiply the second one by negative 3. If I would have multiplied the first one by negative 2, then the second one would have been a positive 3. Okay, as long as one of them is negative. So then that gives me 10x plus 6y equals negative 4. And negative 9x minus 6y equals positive 3. My y's cancel. 10 minus 9 is 1x. Negative 4 and 3 is 1. Negative 1. So I take this negative 1 and I plug it into, I will plug it in to that second equation because the y is already by itself. Well, close to it. Okay, so I'm going to take 2y equals negative 3 times negative 1 minus 1. So 2y equals 2. Divide by 2 and y equals 1. So my ordered pair would be negative 1, 1. Okay. good with that? Okay, so this whole time, these 7 examples we've done, I get an ordered pair as my answer. What does that ordered pair even mean? These ordered pairs that I'm solving algebraically correlate to where the two graphs, if I were to graph them, where they intersect. Okay, so you have to know what you're actually getting as your answer and what it represents. You can't just do a process, get numbers, box it, and have no clue what you're doing. Okay, so make sure you're keeping that knowledge of the prior lesson and carrying it with you. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing all year. We're going to make those relationships and connections. Okay, so now I have x minus 2y equals 4 and 3x minus 6y equals 8. And it says use substitution. If I specifically tell you to use a method and you use the other method, you're getting absolutely no credit because you can't follow instructions. Okay? So just a heads up, read your instructions. So substitution means I'm looking for my variable with a coefficient of 1, which is my x. So I'm going to add my 2y, and x equals 2y plus 4. So I'm going to plug in that 2y plus 4 into the other x. So I've got 3 times 2y plus 4 minus 6y equals 8. Distribute, and I get 6y plus 12 minus 6y equals 8. Combine my like terms. 6 minus 6, what happens? It's 0. It cancels. So I'm left with 12 equals 8. Is 12 equal to 8? No. So that is no solution. So remember that when your variables cancel, that's going to give you a special case. If it's false, it's no solution. If it's true, it's IMS. But if you have a special case, I expect to see what numbers make it that special case. Okay? And even if you get no solution correct, if that 12 would have been a 4 because you forgot to distribute all the way, guess what? You're not getting full credit. Just because your final answer is correct does not mean your work was correct. Okay? So make sure y'all are following your steps. Alright, 4x minus 10y equals 8 and negative 14x plus 35y equals negative 28. I'm using elimination. You look at those numbers and decide, do you want to eliminate x or y? Okay, if you want to do y, I've got a 10 and a 35. What do I want those to become? Okay, what about your x's? 4 and 14, what can you make that become? 28. This could have become 70. 35 times 2 is 70. It ends in a 0. It's a divisible method. Okay? Either way, let's say y'all recognized 4 and 14 could give me 28. So 4 times what is going to give me 28? 7. And then negative 14 times what's going to give me a negative 28? 2. They're already opposite signs. Okay? So that now gives me 28x minus 70y equals 56. And negative 28x plus 70y equals negative 56. What happens? Everything cancels. So if everything cancels, what am I left with? 0 equals 0. You better have it. Okay? And then my final answer is IMS. Okay, so if the other examples gave me a solution, an ordered pair, what were those types of systems? Consistent and independent. Okay? There's no solution. what does that look like? They're parallel and it's inconsistent. Okay? And this IMS, what does that look like? They're the same line and it is consistent and dependent. Okay? All right. Word problems. They're not going to go away. Fractions and word problems do not go away. All right? It says a drama club earns $1,040 from a production. The production sold 64 adult tickets and 132 student tickets. An adult ticket costs twice as much as a student ticket. Write a system of linear equations that represents this situation. What is the price of each ticket? So what am I talking about? Your question will tell you what your variable should be. Right? My question is, what is the price of each ticket? So what are my two variables? So my x is going to be the price of the adult tickets. And my y is going to be the price of the student tickets. I have to see you define your variables. Okay? I have to. So then we're going to come up with our two equations. If you are not good with word problems, okay, go back to what your variable represents. That is the adult tickets. So when I go and I see adult tickets, I'm going to put my x. When I see student tickets, I'm going to put my y. By doing this, I now can at least pair up what number goes with the variable. Okay? So I know I can have 64 adult tickets and 132 student tickets, and altogether, how much did I earn? 1,040. Okay, remember your x is the price of, so that makes sense. So my first equation could be what? Very good. Once I use those numbers, I don't repeat them. I'm done. Okay? So then my next sentence says, an adult ticket, which is x, costs twice as much as a student ticket, which is y. So what would that equation be? X equals 2y. Now I have to solve it. How am I going to solve that? So if you did elimination, you'd have to put it in standard form. But it's already x equals. So it would be less work if you just plugged in that 2y for my x. So I get 64 times 2y plus 132y equals 1,040. So then that gives me 128y plus 132y equals 1,040. I combine my like terms and that becomes 260y equals 1,040. Divide by 260 and y equals 4. So if y is equal to 4, what is my x equal to? 8. Now, this is a word problem. Do I just smush that together as an ordered pair, box it, and move on? No. Okay? We're not going to do that because you do it in terms of your problem. So what does x represent? The price of adult tickets. So adult tickets are $8. So $8 per adult ticket. And then student tickets are $4. So $4 per student ticket. I do not want to see you just box in x equals 8 and y equals 4. I'll probably take off for that because you don't know what you're answering. Are we okay with that? Okay. A math test is worth 100 points and has 38 questions. Each problem is worth either 5 points or 2 points. How many problems of each point value are on the test? Your question tells you what your variable should be. How many of each point value problem is on there? So my x is going to be the number of 5-point questions. And my y is going to be the number of 2-point questions. Because those are the two types that I have on there. So what do you think my first equation could be? X plus y equals 38. Why is it not x plus y equals 100? Okay, because your x and your y represent the number of questions. Okay, so you have to realize what that really is. Okay, so the number of questions equals 38. So x plus y equals 38. Very good. Now what? (5x plus 2y equals 100). Think of, we do everything with like terms, right? So 5 points, 2 points equals how many points? 100. Okay? Now what could I do? You could do substitution or you could do elimination. This one, I would do elimination. And I would be eliminating my y. I just go ahead and multiply everything by a -2. It doesn't matter when it comes down to you working independently. If I don't specify, you choose. Okay? So this becomes -2x minus 2y equals -76. And 5x plus 2y equals 100. -2 and 5 gives me 3x. Y's cancel. -76 and 100 gives me 24. Divide by 3 and x equals 8. So then that gives me y to be equaling 30. Right? Because you would plug in 8. 38 minus 8 is 30. So there are 8 5-point questions and 30 2-point questions. We good with that? Okay, you are going to have a quiz over this, but it's going to be on review day. It's not going to be next class. Okay, next class I'm going to teach you systems of 3 equations. I don't want you taking a quiz and doing that lesson in one day. Okay, so this quiz will be on review day.